Hi everyone, this is John with Sir Winston Honeybees. Today is Sunday, May the 15th, 2022. It's about 67 degrees outside here at the apiary, and we've got some work to do today. We've got to just check the status of our queens that we just put in a couple of weeks ago in hives number 1, hive number 2, and nuke number 1. Now, these two hives were requeened a couple of weeks ago, because the queen in this hive had died just coming out of winter. And I think it might have been during the cold snap right coming out of winter. And so we had a queen in there. We moved her into the nuke with some resources. We put brand new queens in hive 1 and hive number 2. And last week we were in here and we saw some eggs, we saw larvae, and we saw cap brood. So this is, bee development at the different stages. And so we're going to go inside, take a look to see how the population is doing in the hives. And we might add a honey super onto this hive right here. We're going to see how we're doing over there as far as our frames are concerned. We're also going to move some frames from the bottom to the top. We might move the brood down to the bottom just because bees like to work upward, and if frames are empty over there, we want bees to start working their way up and kind of start filling in with comb some of these frames that are empty in here. Okay, going to check the status of frames here, and we might just add some frames to our empty nuke over here, see if we can catch a swarm. All right, so let's get into the hives. Before we do so, I want to remind you that Sir Winston Honeybees is brought to you in collaboration with Blue Sky Bee Supply in Ravenna, Ohio, and you can go ahead and check out their website, and the link is right below at www.blueskybeesupply.com. All right, let's get to work. All right, go ahead and give them a little bit of smoke under the lid so they know what we're about. Kind of push them down a little bit. We'll go ahead and look for our queen. Another thing that we want to do is we're going to go into hive number 2 and we're going to mark that queen. She came marked from California, but her mark was worn off. They say that sometimes bees will chew the mark off. It's possible that happened. I don't really know. Other thing is using a new hive tool today, and I've never used this one before. I have a pretty standard hive tool that I got from Blue Sky Bee Supply, and so I'm going to try this one. I got this one at the Tri-County Beekeepers Association. It's got this part of the tool that I like, and then it has a frame lifter here, and then just our little prior is right on this edge here. So I'll go ahead and use that one today, and we'll see how I like this one. So there are a lot of bees in this hive, and boy oh boy, the first thing I'm seeing is burr comb up on top with honey in it. So we've got some honey being produced in this hive right here, and so that's a pretty good sign. I'm going to go ahead and get my other hive tool just to clean this off real quick. This is my old hive tool, pretty standard hive tool I got from Blue Sky Bee Supply when I first started beekeeping. I like it. I just like this lifter here. But look at all this comb. Boy, we got a lot of comb. We got a lot of honey being deposited. So it might be time to put a super on because it's all new comb. Look at that honey. Look at that, sticky, gooey, rich, beautiful. Look at it. That's what we want, right? That's why we're doing this. Ultimately, we're beekeeping because we want some honey. Look at that dripping over there. Isn't that beautiful? Yes, golden honey. Still a little bit watery. Not quite the consistency that we want, but boy, don't you just want to taste that right there? You know you do. So we've got new comb being put in here, and it's being backfilled with nectar at this time. Not seeing any eggs. So, and usually on these outer frames you won't see eggs, but this was an empty frame last week that we checkerboarded in. So these bees are, again, a lot of nectar here. We've got some capped honey, so slowly it's getting capped. A lot of bees. Definitely got drones. We're getting into mating season, and we're also into swarm season. Swarm season actually more importantly than mating season. Queens are slowly starting to emerge from hives and they're getting mated. That's why the drones come out. But this is swarm season as well. So we don't expect this hive to swarm only because we've already done an artificial swarm by splitting this hive a few weeks ago. So this is frame number 2. this one over here, and we'll put them in the right order. We make sure we put them back in the right order. So it's important to keep your frames in your hive in the right order. Trying to checkerboard them, that means like putting some blank frames in between frames that are filled, then obviously you don't want that. But these frames are getting drawn out, so that's an excellent sign that we're creating a good hive in here. Lots of new comb here, and no sign of queen on these frames. Usually you don't see, again, brood on these outside frames, but even with that said, there's really no room for her to lay here yet. So they might be later, but not quite now. Okay. All right. Now we're seeing some capped brood, but a lot of it has emerged. And so we've got heavy with honey on the outside. So on the outside part, honey. And we see brood on these parts of the frame right here. That's a pretty typical honeybee frame. And I'm watching some bees emerging from these capped cells right now. So we're going to take a quick look. Again, as these bees are emerging, they're backfilling with nectar and honey. So these frames are getting heavy with honey and nectar. So we really do want to move some frames up to give that queen room to lay. All right, now we're going to be on the lookout for that queen. We are seeing also some drone brood. That's that big bubbled up one. We're not seeing any queen cups or queen cells. Seeing some drones though. There's a drone right here. Bring that one a little closer to you. Look at the size of that drone. It's a big guy right there. All right, so drones are male bees. They serve no purpose other than mating with virgin queens in flight. And once they do that, they die instantly. Well, we like to think that they die instantly, right? Seeing some bee bread. And in the other hive, I saw a lot of pollen going in, especially into the nuke. So they do have plenty of nectar. Bee bread. Bee bread again is pollen that's been kind of mixed with some saliva and some other stuff that comes from inside the bee. They don't eat pollen. They break it down into bee bread. And that is protein for bees. Pollen is protein. Starts with a P. And honey is sugar. We all know that sugar is carbs. It's like with humans, sugar is carbs. You know, there's been a lot of research recently about digestive system of honeybees, and some people are giving probiotics and some other things like that. So that's an interesting field. Here's the goby. We've been getting some temperature readings. Again, this hive usually maintains a temperature of about 95 degrees Fahrenheit. You know, which is interesting with it being in the 60s outside, right? Bees maintain an internal hive temperature between about 94 and 98 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's the temperature that you want brood. I'm seeing eggs, larvae, so lots of eggs. And eggs means that the queen has been here within the past 3 days or so. So we're seeing some larvae, eggs, and capped brood right here in this area. Capped brood, eggs around here, and some larvae. Larvae again, I mean, we see larvae at different stages, so the queen is definitely laying here. That's our newer queen. And so we had success with our transfer. And again, larvae is anywhere, you know, after 3 days or so, and then eventually they turn into a bigger larva, and then that gets capped. And inside we see like they spin like almost like a silk, where the bee takes on a pupal stage and then eventually emerges. I want you to see some larvae. Look right here. We'll move some of these bees aside. There's some larvae right here and some eggs. So I'll get you a close-up of that. There's a drone emerging as we speak right here. There's a drone emerging right there. Boy, she's really working this frame. I mean, this one is full of brood, larvae. So we got a lot of nurse bees on here. And this was actually, we saw some eggs last week, right? Remember this outer frames? We saw a lot of eggs last week. Well, this week, a few days later, they're capped over. And we have capped brood. So again, I'm happy with the way things went with our queen transfer. It was all quite good. So I'm seeing some drone brood from the top here, so it lets me know that queen's been down here laying. A lot of drone brood on here. Again, there's our queen. She's in the bottom. See her? Right there. So she's moved down. And she's laying some of these drone eggs. So we know that's our queen. Drone eggs. Of course, drones are males. And that is an unfertilized egg. The queen, when she lays eggs, she can fertilize them and they become female. And unfertilized eggs that she lays become drones, males. And where does she get the sperm? Well, the virgin queen emerges from a cup and she takes a flight. Virgin flight where she mates with the drones. That's their purpose. It's the only thing they do. All right, so we put this hive back together. Remove some frames down, remove some frames up, remove some brood down, and some honey down. And basically I moved some empty frames up here just to give the bees, again, bees like to work upward, give them a chance to fill in these couple of empty frames. Most of the frames are full of, have comb on them at this point. We just have a small handful of them without comb. And they're also bringing in a lot of nectar and they're backfilling a lot of the empty comb with nectar. So what I want to do is I want to add a honey super. Now I will tell you that they're going to have to draw those frames out. Last year I added a honey super. It did not draw those frames out at all. So the nectar flow is on strong right now. It's time to add a honey super and see hopefully that they'll fill in the super frames with a comb and then start filling them with honey. I have a feeling that they will, so I'm feeling pretty good about it. Now's the time to do that. Queen in the bottom box, she's looking good. She's laying eggs, and you know, we have a lot of bees coming up in this hive. So let's go ahead, put the queen excluder on and add that honey super. All right, so here's a queen excluder. Queen excluder, again, as you know, the queen has a larger abdomen than the other bees. And of course drones as well. So it's designed so that a queen can't pass through and drones can't pass through. So only worker bees can pass up and down into the upper super, which is what we're going to add right now. And again, this is a honey super, and this is a medium honey super. So you know, our brood boxes are what we call deeps, and this is medium frames. Again, undrawn, but hopefully they'll get on these and start drawing them. If they don't by next week, I do have some beeswax, which I will melt and brush it on here just to encourage them a little bit. I might just do that in the middle of the week. I have it here with me now, but it's a little bit another thing that I want to do, and I might want to melt it down and brush it on there, which I just have it in one big block. So we'll go ahead and just add on here. Oh, the other thing you'll notice, of course, is that usually medium frames, honey frames, are usually white, and deep frames are usually black. That's only because black deep frames you can see eggs easier, and white you can just see honey and everything else easier. So everything's okay. I mean, I see the bees in between the frames, so that's okay. Other thing is, this queen had lost her mark, and so we want to go ahead and mark the queen, and we'll go ahead and do that as we get into it. This was obviously our, oh wait a minute, we're seeing brood. So this was our hive that really needed requeening, and so now we're seeing a lot of brood right there in the middle. You see larvae, older larvae, some little tiny larvae, and I see eggs. So the queen is working the center of this frame pretty good, and yes, this is a healthy frame with brood and larvae. So let's take a quick look on the other side, see if we spot that queen, isolate her, and mark her. Again, brood, larvae in the middle, and it's a perfect frame. Not a lot of population yet, but these bees are about to emerge, and then things will get rolling in this hive. Yeah, I see a lot of bees right there in the center. So they're in there. Oh, lots of brood too. Lots of brood, I can see it here. Again, more larvae, a little older larvae, cap brood. This is something we did not have, and this is why we requeened this hive. So the problem with this is obviously there's not enough comb, drawn comb, but once these bees emerge, they'll get to work on drawing this comb. There she is, right there in the center. Right there. So let's go ahead. Oh, she's running. Go ahead and trap her. And mark her. Just to make it easier for me to spot her. Got a good retinue about her, and there she goes. She's moving, she's fine. Freshly marked. See that retinue? That's those bees surrounding her. It's called retinue. Retinue. And that's again from the hormones that the queen sets off. So you see those bees are just attending to her. And they might be already eating off that mark. Little turds. Alright, so she's marked, and she should be easy to spot next time. Especially once this hive gets more populated. And that's really all we're going to do in this hive, to be honest with you. I'm just going to move that one frame closer to her and let her work on this. Bees in here, so we want to make sure that these bees are starting to thinking about swarming. Yeah, this side's empty. You might want to move upward. Let's take a look. Spot our queen first. 5 frames, 1 nuke. Before I do that, let me go ahead and scrape this off. First frame of bee bread. Got some nectar. Got a few bees on here, not too bad. On the back side, bee bread, nectar. All right. Oh, we see eggs, and yeah, and brood on this side. All right. So right here, It's an emergency queen cell. It's a cup, nothing in it. Let's see our queen, but go ahead and we're gonna make their lives any easy, right? And there's our queen right there. Go ahead and bring her closer to you. There she is. Alright, she's healthy. Looks good. Laying. This is a frame full of brood and larvae. So this nuke is expanding. All right, we're going ahead and adding to this nuke here. Just adding another level of 5 frames, just because it's there's a lot of bees in there, and it's really starting to, you know, explode, if you will, because we have a queen that's laying a lot, and we got a lot of bees that are building a lot of burr combs. So we're going to see if they fill in those frames at least, and maybe we can use them in one of the other hives if we need to. So we'll go ahead and close that off. All right, keeping my veil on just because I'm not sure what kind of mood they're in. The past couple of weeks they've been kind of in a foul mood right after I got done. I don't see any of them kind of jumping on me right now, so I think they're finally calming down. The hives are queen right. Queen's got the pheromones going, and that makes all the other bees happy. You know, they belong. Did some good work today, right? Found a queen there, moved some frames around just to make sure that the queen, who's now in the bottom box, and she's laying eggs, and she's doing really great. We see larvae, eggs, brood, and lots of honey in that hive. So we went ahead and added a honey super. We'll see what happens. Nothing happened last year, but I have a feeling things are underway in that hive, especially with all the brood about ready to emerge. Hive number 2 with the queen that was replaced. That one was queenless coming out of winter. Got a queen in there now, brood and larvae, eggs at different stages. This hive is growing and it should do good. Eventually we'll add a second beep, and then we'll get that super on there and we'll go from there. But that's still in the future. We also marked our queen here because the mark had worn off. So either that or a different queen, but I think that somehow the mark came off the queen and she's in there now and she's looking good. You guys got to see the retinue and everything, so, and the attendance. That was kind of cool. And then hive number 3, or nuke number 1, let's say, found the queen again, doing good, laying eggs, larvae, all stages of development there, and also starting to grow. So we went ahead and added another layer with 5 frames, and we'll see if they fill them in. Again, a lot of burr comb and a lot of fresh comb is being built up in these. The nectar flow is on. That means that bees have lots of resources, new flowers, pollen, everything's coming on right now that a bee wants for food and for building a hive. So it's a good time to be a honeybee. It's a good time to be a beekeeper. And so I want to remind you as we wrap it up that Sir Winston Honeybees is brought to you in collaboration with Blue Sky Bee Supply in Ravenna, Ohio. www.blueskybeesupply.com. Until next time, I'm John with Sir Winston Honeybees, and happy bees, everybody.